appreciate that. I do need to start today with a quick confession. Here's my confession. I am a goal nerd. I love goals. One year I read 100 books. One year I ran 1,000 miles. One year I hired a ping pong coach because I wanted to get better at table tennis. Raise your hand in the room if you've done that exact goal. Anyone else here hire an elderly man to throw hundreds of ping pong balls at you in a rental property while yelling, kill, kill, kill? I'm not seeing any hands go up. That's what I was worried about. I love goals. I write books about goals. I tweet about goals. I even have a podcast called All It Takes Is a Goal, where I interview people about the goals they're working on. One of my favorite interviews was with Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. When I say SEC, I mean football, not finances. And I interviewed him about what was it like to lead through COVID, because the entire sporting world was watching to see if the SEC was going to play again. And what was really interesting was during the week that Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC, which is $1 billion negotiation, Greg sent me a handwritten thank you note. And I said to my wife, isn't it wild that a guy at his level still sends thank you notes? And she said, oh no, you got it backwards. He's at that level because he sends thank you notes. God bless a spouse that'll tell you the truth. Sometimes my wife Jenny will read early drafts of books I'm writing, and she'll come slowly into my office and she'll say, hey, I read the new manuscript. Do you want feedback or compliments? And that's a pro-marriage question, because sometimes I do just want compliments. I want her to be like, you know, so many adjectives. This is gonna be a good book someday. Not today so much, but someday in the future. But the reason I love goals is really simple. A goal is the fastest path between where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. But there's a problem inherent with goals, and here's the problem. Starting is fun, but the future belongs to finishers. Starting is fun, but the future belongs to finishers. Everybody starts, very few people actually finish. Strava, one of the largest fitness tracking apps in the world, studied 31 million points of athletic data to determine when do people quit their New Year's resolutions. And some people would guess February, March, maybe they make it all the way to April. The greatest day of drop-off they saw was the second Friday in January. They call it Quitter's Day. Everybody starts, but everybody stops. We've all had fitness goals that we were excited about but quit. The one that got me was P90X, the home DVD system. Do you remember P90X? Yeah, it's taken me 3 years. 3 years to do 6 days of P90X. That is not the schedule they recommend. That is not optimal. But maybe you were like me, you saw the ad on TV and you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get jacked in my kitchen. I'm gonna do burpees in my living room. And then you get to set and the first 5 days suck. But then you see day 6 is yoga on the schedule and you think, I can do yoga. That's like 50% candles. How hard is yoga? Turns out that day is very hard. And so I stopped. So for the last 18 years, I've been writing about and studying about goals. What does it take to go from being a chronic starter into a consistent finisher? And this one thing kept coming up in all the research, and it was mindset, that your mindset matters. But I don't mean that in just the general sense of the term. I mean, there's a particular part of your mindset that wrecks more goals than anything else, and it's overthinking. People tend to overthink what they're working on and then don't take action. I'll give you 2 examples. Have you ever reread an email you've already sent? You've already sent the email, and it's an hour later, a day later, a week later, you go back into your sent email folder and reread that. That thing is gone. There's nothing you can do about that. That's overthinking. How about this? Have you ever had an idea before you even wrote it down, you self-edited? You said, that would never work. We don't have the resources for that. We don't have the team for that. Before you even put it on a piece of paper or even just in your phone, that's overthinking. In fact, it's not just something individuals do. I would argue it's the most expensive thing companies invest in every year without even knowing. And it's not a personality trait. It's actually the sneakiest, greediest form of fear because it steals from us. It steals our time, our creativity, and our productivity. But let's get a definition of it so we can actually talk about it today. Here's how I define overthinking. Overthinking is when what you think gets in the way of what you want. When what you think gets in the way of what you want, you can see where you're headed. You can see the horizon, and then all this extra thought gets in the way. But is it really that big of an issue? I was curious about that, so I did what I always do when I get curious. I commissioned a research study with a PhD named Mike Peasley. He's a professor in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live. I don't know if you haven't been to Nashville in a while. It's a wild city. It's growing like crazy. Our population in Nashville right now is about 90% musicians and 10% bachelorette parties. That's our demographic breakdown. I don't know where you came in from. If there's not any bachelorettes there, don't worry. They're all in my city. They're all safe. They're all wearing the same uniform. It's cowboy boots, jean shorts, cowboy hat, shirt that runs frisky with whiskey in some fashion. Pedal Tavern should just pick up at the Nashville airport so that people can start scream singing Morgan Wallen as soon as they land. There's a lot of bachelorettes in Nashville, but there's also a professor. His name is Mike Peasley. So he and I asked 10,000 people if they struggle with overthinking. 10,000 people, and here's what we found. More than 99.5% of people said yes. Everyone you know is overthinking. Every one of your clients, every one of your customers, every one of your team members is overthinking. And the thing they're thinking the most about right now is really obvious. It's AI. Every single person is overthinking AI right now. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. About a month ago, I spoke at CattleCon, the world's largest beef event, obviously. The two speakers were me and Dale Earnhardt Jr., just a couple of NASCAR legends sharing the stage. And they were talking about AI, 4,000 cattle ranchers, and they were going, okay, how do we use it for what we do? Everybody I know is talking about it. And I'm old enough now that I've been through a lot of changes. I told an 18-year-old recently that I used to get Netflix in the mail, and I think he thought I was lying. Like, I could see in his face, he was like, no, you didn't. Nobody got mailed Netflix. And yes, we did. If you were my age and you had Netflix back then, you had to manicure your queue. You had to stay on top of that queue, because if you didn't, out of nowhere, you'd get like Alias Season 7, Disc 4. You'd be like, I don't even know what to do with this. I get mad now if Netflix spins for 2 seconds. It used to take 3 days for a mailman named Carl to bring me Netflix. I've been through change. I remember the first time I got email. I was in college and I was like, this is terrible. Nobody will ever use this. This is the worst. Clearly I was very wrong. I'm not a visionary that way. But I'm not the only person that gets things wrong. Paul Krugman said this about the internet. In 1998, this is what Paul Krugman said about the internet. He said, by 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines. Who is Paul Krugman? A Nobel Prize winning economist. He's not a dumb person. He's hired to do these kind of things. And he said, the fax machine and the internet are going to be pretty similar. I can't tell you exactly where AI is going. I don't think anybody can tell you, okay, here's exactly where it will be in a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. I can't do that, but what I can do is give you a tool that'll help you with whatever change comes next. And this is one of those few tools that if you master it, it improves every part of your life. It helps your relationships. It'll help your marriage. It'll help your health. It'll help your finances. What's the tool? It's the one I started with, mindset. Every part of your life involves thinking. Even while you're asleep, you're thinking. Most tools, if I help you with email management, helps you while you're using email. But mindset is one of those tools that touches everything you do. And so when I worked with the team on this event, they said, hey, you talk about soundtracks a lot, this concept soundtracks. Would you adjust it to AI? Because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people talk about AI. Would you adjust what you do? And I thought that's really interesting, because here's the thing. Mindset is one of the only tools that will never go obsolete. If you can master that, whatever the next change is something you'll be able to handle. And all it takes is what I call a soundtrack. Now, a soundtrack is just my phrase for repetitive thought. A thought you listen to again and again and again. I've heard people say, a thought is like a leaf on a river, or a cloud in the sky, or a car on the highway. But for me, it's always been a soundtrack. Because a soundtrack has the power to change an entire moment, and often you don't even notice it's happening. Think about a movie that opens up, and there's a little house, maybe a white picket fence, and some kids frolicking. But then they change to something ominous. They change the soundtrack. It changes everything, doesn't it? Suddenly you go, don't go in that house. It's quiet. It's too quiet. There could be a creepy clown in the sewer. What if they play a happy song? What if they play Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles? Suddenly somebody's making their way downtown. Suddenly it's a rom-com. It changes everything. And here's what you need to know about your life. You have a soundtrack for every part of your life. You have a soundtrack for every boss you've ever had, for every client you've ever had, for every mistake you've ever made, for every city you've ever lived in. I lived in Atlanta for 6 years, and it was 6 hard years. It was my late 20s to my early 30s, and I didn't know we were poor. I just thought we liked camping. I said to my wife, like, we sure were outdoorsy when we were first married, and she's like, oh, no, we were broke. We could only afford an $11 a night campsite. That was poverty you're remembering. I'm like, oh, it felt like outdoorsiness, and now that you say it, these were hard years. I had a broken soundtrack about Atlanta. The longer you listen to certain thoughts in your life, the more they become part of your personal playlist, and the faster they fire. The same is true of companies. That's all culture is. Culture is just a collection of soundtracks people are listening to consistently at a company. Now, how powerful are they? Well, my favorite study was done at NYU a few years ago. NYU had scientists bring in 2 groups of students. To the first group, they said, hey, we want you to make some sentences out of this word bank. They gave them a bunch of vocabulary words and said, construct some sentences. To the second group, they gave the same exact feedback, but their words were a little different. They had hidden words in their collection related to being old. Words like slow and retired and bald and even Florida. You know your state has a lot of elderly when it uses a trigger word in a scientific study. But so these students spend about 45 minutes working with these words, and then the scientists say, hey, the second part of the test is down the hall. Would you please walk to the end of the hall? And that's when the real test started. Because the scientists secretly timed how long it took each group to walk to the end of the hall. And the group that read the words about being old physically acted old. They walked slower than the other students just from reading words unknowingly. That's how powerful your thoughts are. So what do we do with that? How do we build a mindset? Well, mindset is actually very easy. We've made it kind of woo-woo in our culture and kind of fuzzy and kind of emotional, but it's very practical, especially in business. Here's all you need to know about mindset. Great thoughts turn into great actions. Great actions turn into great results. The things you think become the things you do, become the things you get. That's mindset in a nutshell. So what do great companies, great leaders do with this? They do 3 very specific things. Number 1, they retire broken soundtracks. They're very deliberate to say, for us to get to where we really want to go, we have to stop saying this. For us to scale, for us to grow, for us to enter this market, we have to stop saying this as a team. They retire their broken soundtracks. The second thing they do is they replace those old ones with new ones. They replace their soundtracks. It's not enough to get rid of the old, you have to embrace the new. Your brain is waiting to be told what to think. Your brain is waiting for marching orders. Your brain is so gullible in the best possible ways. One of my favorite examples is this. Have you ever written down something on your to-do list that you've already done? You already did the thing, and then you go back and you write it on your to-do list just so you can cross it off? Do you know why that works and why we do it? It works because when you do that, your brain gives you a chemical reward. Your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. Your brain goes, oh, you did that? Good for you. And you want to say, yeah, you were there. We did it together. And your brain goes, I don't even care. I'm just so proud of us. You have to replace your soundtracks. And then the last thing you do is you repeat those new ones so often they become as automatic as the old ones. 3 simple actions. You retire, you replace, you repeat. Now, I'm going to focus on those first 2 with the rest of my time. How do we retire some broken soundtracks? How do we replace them? And I've got a lot of slides, obviously. So if you want the whole deck, just use this QR code. I've already seen some people getting their cameras out, and it's so annoying when you're at an event and you go to take a picture and the person's already 3 slides away. And you're like, oh, thanks for nothing. I was too slow. So if you want the entire deck, I'll send it to you at that QR code. But we're going to start with retire. How do you and I deliberately identify some soundtracks that are going to hold us back? When you go back to your team, to your office, to your crew, how do you identify some broken soundtracks that are going to be an issue? Well, let me start this discussion with a few common broken soundtracks. If we're going to retire, let's start with some common ones. Here's a really common one. That's not how we do things here. It's not how we do things here. If you've worked for longer than 10 minutes, someone has said this in your presence. This is a very common broken soundtrack. Here's another one. We never reach our goals, so why do we set them? This is a soundtrack of apathy, a soundtrack of why bother. And there's a lot of apathy in our culture right now. Now, if you want to figure out if you have a broken soundtrack in your own life, I'll give you an exercise you can do later today. It takes 60 seconds. It's very easy. Step 1, write down a goal. Write down a goal, and it can be any goal. It can be a work goal. I want to embrace AI faster. I need to sell it to my team better. It can be a personal goal. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to start a podcast. I want to write my own book. I want to run a 5K. I want to travel more. Just write down a goal. And then the second step, listen to your first thoughts about that goal. Listen to your reaction to that goal, because every reaction is an education. It's educating you about what you really believe you're capable of. Are your first thoughts positive? You should do this. This is going to work. This is going to be amazing. Or are they negative? Who are you to do this? This won't work. You don't have the resources. You don't have the right community. The last diet failed. Why would this one succeed? I mean, do you know the hardest part of the 11th diet? The hardest part of the 11th diet is the first 10 that didn't work. Because the minute you try the new one, all those failures get really loud. Like if you buy a Peloton, your Bowflex will crawl out of the garage. You're like, oh, got a Peloton, huh? I'm a Bowflex. Remember me? Bows were the future. If you buy a Peloton, even your Thigh Master will come out of the closet. If you're younger than me and don't know what a Thigh Master is, I'll explain it. In the 1980s, there was a scientist named Suzanne Summers. More of a doctor, really, if you think about it. And she convinced all of us that our thighs were our most important part of our bodies, and we went with it because we hadn't invented a core yet. We didn't have a core until like 1993. Or think about this, when you leave this event and tell your team what you've learned, what's their first response gonna be? Are they gonna go, let's go? Or are they gonna put up obstacles? Because some of you right now already have nervous team members who aren't here. Because when you come to an event like this, you come home and go, changing everything. Oh, it's all new. Like they're nervous somewhere right now. Like they're like, oh, just have to survive like a week of excitement. That's all I have to get through. So what are the broken soundtracks that I keep seeing from companies around AI? What are the AI-specific broken soundtracks? Well, here's the first one. We tried AI before and it didn't work. We tried it. This is we checked the box, it didn't work. This is we asked our most technical person, his name is Gary, to try AI. He told us we didn't even need it. He said, don't worry, I checked it out, you're all good. I talked to a senior VP of an engineering firm the other day, and he said, my IT department said we don't really need to worry about AI, but I feel like they're not telling me the full picture. And he keeps going like, hey, how are we doing? I'm like, don't worry, we tried it before. We tried it before. And people are believing that, they're saying that. Here's another one. I need to understand everything before I use it. This is the perfectionism lie. This is the expertise lie. When I'm ready, I'm gonna deep dive. You better watch out. Like someday when I have enough time, I'm gonna become an AI expert. Like someday when I have time. And the idea is like, as if there's a week called the someday week that shows up in your life that has no meetings. Like you go in on Monday and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no commitments or meetings. This is the someday week. Everything I said I'd do someday, this is when I get to do it. But they go, I'm gonna become an expert. And this one is wild if you think about it in other aspects. Like if somebody told you they were gonna become really good at swimming by reading 20 books about swimming. Like I'm just not gonna get in the water first. Like I wanna be an expert at swimming before I get in the water. You better watch out. You go, that won't work. But I hear people saying this. They're saying, okay, I've gotta get really good at it before I use it. This is one of my favorite ones. AI is just a fad. I'll wait it out. I've talked to so many executives in their early 50s and mid 50s who are doing retirement math. They're trying to figure out, can I retire before I have to learn AI? They're in this desperate foot race and AI is catching them and they're like, maybe I can get to retirement first, but they know they can't. And they're going, it's really just a fad, I don't need to worry about it. This was my attitude with video, by the way. 10 years ago, I write books, obviously. 10 years ago, I had friends go, I think you need to get into video. I was like, no, people won't like video in the future. It's just, people will like long form content, just words. People love reading. And you know what did me in? If you ever want to get depressed as a writer, walk down the middle of an aisle in the middle of a flight and count open books versus videos. You'll go cry in that little bathroom that Delta has. But I was a big baby about YouTube. Honestly, I was just a big baby. I was like, no, I don't need to worry about that. It's just a fad. And then Instagram added video, and then TikTok did their thing, and I was like, oh, I don't think it's gonna be cyclical. Like people's attention spans aren't going back to long form. But people are saying this, it's just a fad. Here's another one. I'm not a technical person, I can't learn it. I'm not a technical person. It's out of my skills. I'm just not a technical person. We love applying labels to ourselves so we don't have to change. I had a friend the other day who's 37 tell me he's not a math person. I'm really not a math person. I said, for the rest of life? Like, there's a lot of life left, and adulthood has so much math. Just because you were bad at algebra in 9th grade at 37, you could go, yeah, I just don't do math. Like, how do you do taxes or groceries or anything? It's all, very few things are color-based. There's a lot, very few things in your life are shape-based. There's a lot of math. But you have friends right now that if you say to them, hey, I think we should try this thing with AI, they're like, whoa, easy, Einstein. I can't figure this stuff out. This is one of my favorite ones too. This changes everything. This changes everything. And you see this on LinkedIn where it's the dead motif. Have you seen that? Where people go, sales training, dead. Sales funnels, dead. Customer service, dead. Everybody just keeps putting a dead label because this is going to change it. I mean, breathing is pretty much over. We don't even need to do it. Claude does it faster. And then we write these articles. I saw an article the other day and somebody said, Claude does my job in 90 seconds. It used to take me 8 hours a day. And I thought, then you suck at your job. If Claude can do your 8-hour workday in 90 seconds, you're a terrible person. There shouldn't be 99% inefficiencies in your day. Where Claude goes like, there, I'm done. You want to golf the rest of the day? But we keep saying this changes everything. Here's another one. You can tell when it's AI. You can tell when it's AI. This is the AI slop broken soundtrack. And let's be clear, you used to be able to tell when it's AI. You used to be able to. A couple months ago, a guy I had just met, we'd only known each other for like 2 months, asked me to do him a favor. I did him a favor via email, and then he sent me back this email. This is what he sent back. I truly appreciate your kind words and are grateful for the opportunity to partner with you over the years. Your commitment to growth and leadership is what makes the work meaningful. That is AI. We'd only known each other for 2 months. We don't have years and years of relationship, and no human talks that way. Nobody goes, your commitment to growth and leadership is what makes the work meaningful. But I guarantee if he sent me an email today, I wouldn't be able to tell. And I know that because the other day, my team did an audio recording of my voice without me. They did an audio recording of my voice without me. Some of my words that I had written, they created it. I sent it to my mom and dad and said, hey, I just did this, encouraging audio. I thought you guys might like it. My mom texted me back immediately and was like, that was so uplifting, John. It's so great to hear your voice. I called her immediately. That wasn't me. And don't answer your phone anymore. Just tell your parents to not answer the phone. Going forward, no phones. We only do telegraph. We go, like we're going back to Morse code. If my mom can't tell it's my voice, maybe the AI is getting better. And then the last one is this for leaders. If I bring up AI, my team will panic. If I bring it up, they'll panic. And the funny thing about this one is this, it's if they don't know about AI. As if you as the leader are their only source. They're already panicking. This is kind of the leader version of like when a toddler plays hide and go seek and covers their own eyes. Like if I can't see you, you can't see me, I'm invisible. But these are the things people are saying. So how do we deal with these? Well, if you want to identify a broken soundtrack, you just ask 3 questions. 3 very simple questions to see if it's actually something that's going to hold your team back. Number 1, is it true? Is it true? Is the story I'm telling myself about myself true? Is the story I'm telling myself about this opportunity true? About our team true? One of the greatest mistakes you can make is assuming all your thoughts are true. And the reason we do that is that every thought you've ever had is delivered in your own voice. And we tend to trust it, even though a lot of times our thoughts lie to us. So first one, is it true? Like, let's take this. This changes everything. It's not true, because nothing changes everything. Nothing ever changes everything. And here's how you know it's not true. There's an absolute. Absolutes are usually a sign of a broken soundtrack. I worked with a sales team recently for a financial group, and this financial advisor told me all of my clients are not the type of people who give referrals. All of them. And I said, so were they made like in a factory of no referral? Like, did you ask all of them? No, of course not. He didn't want to ask for a referral, so he just assumed all of my clients won't. That was an absolute. It was broken. Same with parenting. If you're a parent and your kid uses an absolute, it's usually a broken soundtrack. I'm the only one who didn't get invited to the party. Everyone has a new iPhone but me. I'll never pass geometry. Only, everyone, never. It's an absolute. It's not true. First question, is it true? Second question, is it helpful? Is it helpful? When we say this as a team, when I say this as an individual, does it push us forward or hold us back? Does it move us in the direction we're trying to go, or does it hold us back? Now, why do we need more than one question? Why is it true enough? The reason why is that there's some things in life that are true, they're just not helpful. They're true, they're just not helpful. I'll give you an example. So let's talk about this with AI. If I bring up AI, my team will panic. That might be true. That might be true, but they're already panicking. And in the absence of the story you help them write, they'll write their own story. So maybe it's true that they'll panic, but is it helpful for you to keep ignoring the conversation? Of course not. Second example happened with the Orlando Magic. A few months ago, I spoke to the Orlando Magic. I think they wanted a speaker that was tall, that the guys could relate to. You didn't let me sit in that live for a second. The laughter was immediate. But I went and spoke there, and I had dinner with the head of basketball operations the night before, and he said, John, for 9 years in a row, we had the worst record in the NBA. Orlando Magic, worst record. For 9 years in a row, we had the fourth worst record in all of major sports. Baseball, hockey, football, basketball. He said we couldn't sell tickets based on the quality of the product we were putting on the floor. It was hard to sell tickets. That's a true statement. But was it helpful for his sales team to say that again and again and again? Until the team improves, we can't sell tickets. People love saying until. I have people say, like, until the government gets their act together, we can't scale this business. If you're waiting for the government to behave, I have terrible news for the rest of your life. Or the economy. It's just not the right economy for blank. You can't wait on that. So what did he do? He recognized that it was a broken soundtrack. He went to every major hotel in the Orlando area, went to the front desk, the concierge, and said, hey, I'm from out of town, and I love sports. What should I do tonight? Not a single one of them recommended the Orlando Magic. They all said, oh, if you love sports, here's a coupon for downtown Disney. You can get an appetizer at the sports bar. Or, hey, here's a coupon for Top Golf or a coupon for Hipster Bowling Alley. None of them recommended the Magic. He went back to his team and said, I just met our new sales force. They're at every hotel in the area because Orlando has 75 million tourists every year. That's the only city with an NBA team that has those kind of numbers. Like, no offense to Cleveland, Ohio. No family in Italy saves up to someday come to Cleveland. There's no family in Sicily. It's like, oh, we're just going to save up our money. We're going to go to America, and we're going to finally experience the best of Ohio. That's not what happens. But people from around the world come to Orlando all the time. So he went back to all those concierges and said, hey, when somebody saves up and comes to America for the first time, give them this Orlando Magic ticket package. We'll give you a kickback. It worked so well, they just went to Europe eventually. The Orlando Magic went to Europe, all the travel agents, and said, hey, when a family from Germany saves up to come to America, please tell them you can't go to America without watching America's basketball team, the Orlando Magic. Now, was it true that it's hard to sell tickets when your team is bad? It is true. But was it helpful for them to say that? It wasn't. Third example happened in my own house. A few years ago, my youngest daughter, McCrae, failed the biology test. Sophomore in high school, failed the biology test, just bombed it. She got a 42, and the crazy thing is, that was with the curve. Like, I don't even know how that math works. They curved her into like a bonus F. And about a month later, she had another test. And the night before the other test, she was reminding herself that she had failed the last one. Her soundtracks were, hey, don't forget you failed the last test. Don't forget you failed the last test. Don't forget you failed. And I had to pause and go, hey, McCrae, is it true you failed the last test? It is. You don't fix an old lie with a new lie. But is it helpful tonight for you to remind yourself that 100 times before the next one? And she said no. And then I said, if a friend of yours texted you 100 times tonight, hey, I want to remind you you failed. I want to remind you you failed. Would that be a friend or a monster? And she said, a monster. I said, well, if you wouldn't talk to yourself that way, if you wouldn't let a friend say that to you, don't let you say that to you. It was true, it just wasn't helpful. Third questions you have to ask every broken soundtrack is this: is it kind? Is it kind? Now, I love this question in rooms like this, high-performing rooms, because it feels a little soft. You can feel the room go, oh, here we go, is it kind? It feels like a Bed Bath & Beyond question. Let's just be honest. It feels like I'm going to give you a hugging exercise later. You got to hug 9 nicks before you leave today. So let's pull it back to science. Let's pull it back to technology. A few years ago, Google wondered something. Google wondered, what do our most successful teams have in common? It's a great question, right? What do our best teams have in common? So they launched Project Aristotle, spent millions of dollars, measured 180 different teams, used 35 different statistical models to find one answer. Here's the answer. The best teams in common have psychological safety. Psychological safety. Now, what does that term mean? Well, here's how Amy Edmondson from Harvard Business School defines it. It's a shared belief held by members of the team that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. But what do we do with that on a Tuesday, right? That's what I always feel. When I'm in the crowd and I see a really inspiring speech of somebody who ran a backwards marathon up Mount Kilimanjaro, I always think, what do I do with that on a Tuesday? I have a real hard Tuesday coming up. You have a real hard Friday coming up. What do we do with this in the real world? Well, here's what it means in the real world. It means on great teams, you can do three things. You can ask questions, you can suggest new ideas, and you can admit you're wrong. Then here's the kicker, without being treated unkindly by the team. Now, why do those three things matter? Well, number one, if you can't ask questions, learning is over. If on your team you can't raise your hand and go, hey, can you explain that one more time? Can you run that by me again? I'm just a little bit confused. If you can't ask a question, learning's over. If you can't suggest new ideas, innovation is over. You never want your people leaving their best ideas in the parking lot before they come into your business. And the third one, if you can't admit you were wrong, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes again and again and again. You only get to fix mistakes you own. And leaders struggle with that last one. Here's what I've learned about leadership. Leaders who can't be questioned end up doing questionable things. Leaders who can't be questioned end up doing questionable things. You show me a team that failed. You show me a sales team that underperformed. You show me a church that imploded. I'll show you a leader who is isolated and could only be told the things he or she wanted to hear because they didn't have psychological safety. So what about this from a soundtracks perspective? Well, one of the broken soundtracks is when we tell ourselves, I'm not a technical person, I'm not a technical person. Imagine if you said that to a coworker. Imagine if you said, oh, you're trying to learn? No, you can't. You can't learn AI. You're not a technical person. Once you wear readers, they don't even allow you to use it. I'm sorry, Rhonda, you don't get to have access to AI. You'd never say that to a coworker, but we say it to ourselves, which isn't kind. So if you can't answer yes to those three questions, for yourself or your team, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? It's probably a broken soundtrack you need to retire and maybe even replace. So let's look at replace. How do we replace some of those specific broken soundtracks? Well, here's one. We tried AI before and it didn't work. What if you say a better soundtrack? We tried version 1.0 and now we're going to try version 92.0. Because we're not even on version 2.0. And let's just admit, it used to be bad. The photos, the people had 7 fingers and a dragon tongue. That happened. We remember that, but some people locked that in. What if you said, okay, we tried version 1.0, now we need to move to 92.0. What about this broken one? I need to understand everything before I use it. I need to understand everything. Instead, I think you should say this: be brave enough to be bad at something new. Be brave enough to be bad at something new. You won't be good at AI because you've never done much with it, and you're never good at things you've never done much with. I saw this happen in COVID. Young moms would tell me, John, I'm the worst at virtual schooling. I'm so bad at virtual schooling, my 8-year-old. And I always say, I bet you suck at hang gliding too. And they would go, wait, what? I go, yeah, you've never hang glided. You're probably terrible at that. You've never virtually taught an 8-year-old in your kitchen. It's very hard to learn something during a global pandemic. They're very distracting. But we have this idea that we're going to be great at something we've never done. It's wild at companies when the best person there has the hardest time with change. But it makes sense. The person who's great at the old way has the most to lose. So sometimes as leaders we go, it's so weird that my best people are fighting the new way. It's not weird. They have the most to lose. They're great at the old way. The person who's not great at the old way goes, yeah, I'll try a new way. I'll be bad at that one too. Let's go. Be brave enough to be bad at something new. How about this one? AI is just a fad. I'll wait this one out. It's just a fad. I'll wait this one out. I think you should admit the truth. The sooner we start, the sooner we win. The sooner we start, the sooner we win. You will say that if you're not careful. I wish we had started sooner. Every major technological change, people who waited said, I wish we had started sooner. I wish I had started YouTube sooner. I have a huge platform. I teach other speakers and writers how to do this job. I have a massive platform, except for YouTube. I have a 100,000 person email list. 182,000 people on Instagram. My last video on YouTube got like 82 views. That's embarrassing. Like when a client goes to book me to speak, they go, this guy's been on the New York Times list and has sold 1 million books. Let's check out his YouTube channel. I'm like, we don't need to look at that. Why don't we look at Pinterest or like MySpace or Classmates? Like, I wish I had started sooner. I don't want you to say that about any new technology. I wish we had started sooner. How about this one? This changes everything. This is a drama-filled declaration. And this is why leaders go, it's so weird, my team panics when I talk to them about AI. They're panicking because you go, hey, everything is changing, everything. And it's already hard to be a leader right now, and then you add drama. Instead of adding drama, ask a question. I wonder what this will change. It's going to change something. It might change a lot, but I wonder what it will change. Because it's not easy to be a leader right now. It's just not. Like, people are bringing their full selves into work. Like, that's pretty new. Let's give ourselves some credit. That's pretty new. And like, my grandfather's generation didn't get to have feelings. They didn't even have feelings. My dad's generation got to have them. They just had to leave them at home. There was home you and work you. And now the people you lead and work with are bringing their full selves to work, and that's different. It's also hard to lead right now because like 20 years ago, leaders didn't have to convince people to come to an office. They didn't have to do a marketing campaign for the building. They would just go, hey, this is where we work, Monday through Friday. We'll see you there. And now they have to be like, we have coffee. We have Pony Fridays. You can ride a Shetland pony between meetings. Come back. We're wooing you to come back to office. It's hard, and it's especially hard when you add drama. This reduces drama. I wonder. How about this one? You can tell when something is made with AI. You can tell. Let's just be honest. You used to be able to tell. Let's admit it. Let's admit that, yeah, it used to be a little bit wonky. It's getting better and better and better. And we judge AI based on tomorrow, not yesterday. We judge it on where it's going and what we're going to be able to do with it, not where it was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. And then this last one, if I bring up AI, my team will panic. I think instead we should say, if I bring up AI, my team can plan. My team can actually plan. Now, the reason I talk about mindset so much and write about it is that I don't have a naturally good mindset. I'm actually a very negative, cynical person. Like, I'm very pessimistic. It might be because I grew up in Massachusetts and we're a wicked cold people. When singer Noah Kahn had this line where he said, I'm mean because I grew up in New England, I'm like, same. I went to college in Birmingham, Alabama, and nobody prepared me for the culture shock of that. From Massachusetts to like, Birmingham is like, Atlanta's the South. Birmingham is like the South. For a year, I didn't know why people were asking me how my day was. I was like, what's it to you? I'm a negative person. It used to cause problems in my marriage. When we were newly married and had a couple of little kids, my wife would say at the beach, like, hey, let's take a walk down to the pier and show the kids. And I'd go, no problem. Let me just walk back 2 miles to our car so I can lock up the stroller so nobody steals it. And she'd say, John, if somebody steals our stroller, it just means they needed it more than us. And I'd say, no, if somebody steals our stroller, it means we got jacked. What are you talking about? That's how cat burglary works. But now I write positive books and I give positive speeches and I have a positive podcast. What happened? Well, a few years ago, I learned that positivity has a better ROI than negativity. Positivity has a better ROI than negativity. Like, when I'm positive, I make more money. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I feel better physically. So I just practice positivity. Most people do the opposite. Most people in our culture right now practice negativity and fear and stress and offense and chaos. I meet people all the time that'll say, I just feel like I'm in a funk. And I'll go, tell me about your day. Tell me what's going on. They'll go, well, I woke up a little late and I drove into work and I listened to political talk radio about the idiots in Washington. Then I hung out at work with some other people who hate their job and we went out to lunch and talked about how dumb our boss is. Then I drove home, I commuted home, and I listened to my favorite podcast called Brutal Unsolved Crimes in Your City. They've got a whole new season on stabbings. Just 8 episodes, all stabbing all the time. And I went home and I got on the Nextdoor app and I argued with neighbors about mailbox colors and coyotes. Somebody on the Nextdoor app took a photo of my wife and said, be on the lookout for a suspicious person. And I don't mean somebody, our direct next door neighbor. Because my wife was worried about flooding in between our yards. She took a photo, she had a rainbow umbrella. She was a terrible prowler. And they posted, be on the lookout, there's a slender woman taking photos of people's houses. And I said, oh, that's funny, that's my wife. And she said, no, it's not. And I got gaslit. I was like, maybe it's not. So they got on Nextdoor, then right before bed, I watched my favorite show on Netflix called People Who Look Like You Getting Murdered. We laugh at that, but one of Netflix's most popular shows is about Jeffrey Dahmer. Can we agree there's no world that right before you go to bed, you need to check in on a cannibal? You're like, oh, I want to sleep tight tonight. What's this cannibal been up to? I want to get some people eating in my head. That'll put me to bed. People practice stress and anger and chaos and fear, especially around things like AI. I just practice the opposite. And one way that I do that is for years I would carry soundtracks on note cards in my pocket. I just carry soundtracks in my pocket. I didn't so much. Eventually the team was like, I think we should just make some. I think other people might want them. And so we made a card deck, 52 different soundtracks with questions on the back. This one says, fear comes free, hope takes work. Fear comes free, hope takes work. You'll never have to go look for fear. You'll never have to go look for stress. It'll find you in the grocery store. But hope takes a little bit of work. This one says, make tomorrow easy today. Make tomorrow easy today. This is my favorite definition of discipline. What can I do today to make tomorrow easy? That's all alignment is. Like for me, I used to be a morning guy and I'd want to get up and be excited about the day and get after it. And I'd go, I'm so groggy. What did we do last night? At night, me would be like, we stayed up till midnight doom scrolling and we ate a lasagna. Woo! And now I just go, what can I do today to make tomorrow easy? This one says, some beats none. Some beats none for the perfectionism in me. This one says, hills pay the bills. When I do the difficult things other people don't, I get to see vistas other people won't. So when I have a missed flight in Chicago and I have to spend the night somewhere that I wasn't planning in January, I say, oh, hills pay the bills. We printed up 500 of these, 1,800 sold the first week because everyone you know is overthinking. Everyone is. And here's what's fun. Once you discover the power of soundtracks, you're just going to start to notice them. You're just going to notice them in your life because individuals have them. Couples have them. Families have them. Teams have them. Companies have them. Because everybody is overthinking. And the best teams, the best companies, turn overthinking from a super problem into a superpower. And they do it with those three words. They retire, they replace, they repeat. Because they know something that you know now. The one constant in a world of constant change is the mindset you bring to it. So if I could leave you with one soundtrack, here's the one I'd leave you with. Just 2 words. Don't wait. Don't wait. If you're in your 20s, don't wait. Also, don't use the phrase work-life balance in your 20s. A 25-year-old told me the other day he was worried about work-life balance. I said, no. These are the building years. You got to go. I said, you have the least amount of experience and finances, but you have the most time and energy. Use that time and energy fuel to get the finance and experience. Go. Don't worry about work-life balance right now. Go. If you're in your 30s, I'd say don't wait. I'd also say you're not behind. In your 30s, you feel behind because one of your friends has a rocket ride career. And you can watch it on Instagram. They get the house and the spouse and the car and the mustache and the dog. They get it all. And you look and go, I'm behind. You're not behind. If you're in your 40s, I'd say don't wait. I'd also say, I think you're not burned out. I think you're bored. I think you're overstimulated and under-challenged. I think you might need even bigger problems. I meet so many people in their 40s that go, well, I'm at gear 8 of 10, and I go, I think you're at gear 4. There's even more to you than you know. You're capable of more. If you're in your 50s and 60s, I'd say don't wait. You're just getting started. I have so many people, I'm in my 50s, who will come up to me and go, when are you going to slow things down? When are you going to stop? And I go, what are you talking about? Ask a bird why it flies, because it's a bird. I love what I'm doing. I'm just getting started. And if you're in your 70s, you know what I'd say to you? How amazing is pickleball? Right? I mean, just so good. No, of course that's not what I'd say. I'd say we need you. You're a time machine. People who are 10 years ahead of you, 20 years ahead of you, are a time machine. They've been to the future you're trying to get to, and if you'll humbly ask, they'll tell you how they got there. We need to all lean in. And you're going to have broken soundtracks. You're going to. Here's my one request. Don't walk out of here with an attitude of no. You're going to hear things today. You're going to talk in the lobby, and it's going to be really easy to filter it through, oh, that wouldn't work for us or my team or my skills. Like, just pause that. Pause it. Pause it for the flight home even. Like, what could you do, especially if you believe this last soundtrack. This last soundtrack of don't wait, don't wait, don't wait. Thanks, guys.
Give it up for Jon Acuff.